Welcome to the edition of Boxing Info. This is the results show as well as the preview show for week ending September the 11th, 2011. I want to start off by reviewing a fight that I did not preview, which was Andre Berto's comeback fight after losing his WBC title to vicious Victor Ortiz in his last fight, taking on Jan Zabic of Slovenia, I believe. Any of an HBO televised this fight from Biloxi, Mississippi. I expected Berto to win this fight, possibly by stoppage, possibly by wide decision if I was going to preview the fight and actually do a preview show. What I didn't expect to happen is what transpired, in which there was good two-way action, in which Berto was getting the best of it, but also taking some serious shots and got shaken a few times in the fight. The fight reminded me very much of when Fernando Vargas had lost to Felix Trinidad. He was on the comeback trail and he fought Wilfredo Rivera in one of his first fights after Trinidad, and Rivera drilled him to the canvas, and there was some anxious moments in that fight. Same thing with this, although Berto basically pummeled Zabic's face in pretty good as far as, and was the reason the corner was stopping the fight against Zabic's will. What does this fight show? It shows some of Berto's talents and some of his major drawbacks. And I love when fighters go undefeated for long stretches of time without fighting anybody of any real substance, and then along comes somebody like vicious Victor Ortiz, who's thought to be just almost like an afterthought, and the likes of Al Heyman and HBO will go ahead and take a risk, and it doesn't pan out right, and then the fighter has some mentally wrong with them, or mental drawbacks, psychological drawbacks after basically being involved in a fight like that. Berto got hit way too much. Zabic's a really good fighter. I don't know if they mentioned it on the telecast or not, but he went all the way to South Africa and blew out Isaac Hothsuelo, who didn't have that title legitimately anyway, because they ripped off Delvin Rodriguez when Delvin Rodriguez had to fight Hothsuelo twice for that title. The first time being a questionable draw, and the second time being Hothsuelo just squeaking by at home in that fight. So Zabic's a good, a good contender. He's going to be probably seen again. With Berto, I think if he's fighting B-level fighters and maybe A- fighters, he's going to be okay. But when he fights A-level fighters or A+, he's going to be in big trouble. And the reason why I say this is that technically, if you watch back the Berto fight with vicious Victor Ortiz, technically he should never have gotten out of the first round. If Ortiz would have really jumped on him hard, the fight would have been over in the first round. All credit to Berto for coming back and making that a fight, but at the same time, his legs weren't under him. I question his overall conditioning. I question the fact that he has an entourage of yes men around him that just tell him yes to everything, and he does not fight what I would consider a disciplined fight. And proof of it was the amount of incoming flack he took in this fight. Although again, all credit to Zabic, he was better than advertised. Turning our attention though to a couple of things in news. A couple of you made mention. The Arturo Gatti case is reopened again, and basically Pat Lynch, who was Gatti's manager, and you'd seen him in the ring with Gatti, went ahead and basically hired a special investigator in Chicago, and they're reopening this case, and they are going to, or they already have, or they're going to present the Brazilian authorities with this case, because there is no way in hell that the straps on a handbag could hold up the weight of Arturo Gatti around his neck. And there's all kinds of other inconsistencies with the crime scene. And the charge here is that his widow basically killed him to get control of his $6 million estate. Understand, the police right away arrested her in the beginning. How much of $6 million do you think it would take to pay off the authorities in Brazil and basically change this to a suicide? I'm sorry, from a homicide to a suicide. I'm just, I'm not claiming anybody's out of line or any of this is happening, but just using some critical thinking. How much of a known $6 million inheritance that she's going to receive would it take for those officials Think if she only gave up $500,000 and gave 5 different people $100,000, it would change their lives forever and wherever they are. I mean, living in Brazil. So my thinking is that I don't know if something like that happened. It would be very easy to imagine and very easy for it to have happened. And I really hope they do get this case opened up and they basically are able to indict this woman and extradite her, because she's the only person that was in the house capable of being the cause of Gatti's death. And I'll just go ahead and say, even though we're innocent in this country until proven guilty, there are too many things wrong with this situation, even more so if you want to go back to the 1990s and look at the O.J. Simpson case. You know, nobody could definitively put that man at the crime scene or found a murder weapon or any of these other things, which I can understand the technicalities in which he was found not guilty, even though he may have committed the murders. I don't know. I'm just saying this. Don't want to get anybody upset. This case, it's by far more airtight. She was in the scene of the crime. One of her garments or devices was used for the killing, whether he used it or she used it. And what I'm reading now is that an injury to the back of Gatti's head, which the Brazilian authorities said were from when the straps broke and he fell to the ground, is when the abrasion happened in the back of his head. They're saying now that basically it was a blunt instrument used to whack him on the back of the head to incapacitate him and then strangle him. This just stinks to high heaven. The whole thing has stunk to high heaven since the get-go. But hopefully we'll keep informed. I know Avellino, somebody said they saw the scenes of the crime scene. Yeah, things like that I wish I wouldn't have seen either. But the situation is this woman, or justice needs to be served, and has not been served as far as I'm concerned. Miguel Cotto and Antonio Margarito, December 3rd in Madison Square, in New York, in Madison Square Garden, the rematch. And it's going to be on HBO pay-per-view. Cotto's back on HBO. Alright, here's the thing, you know, I guess the only reason why they're making this fight is for two reasons. One, neither one of them has a real viable high dollar option at this point in time. And two, the idiots at HBO who want to speculate that Margarito's hand wraps were loaded when he fought Cotto, even though they were fighting in the Nevada jurisdiction where they actually know what they're doing, not like California, they've spread a cloud of controversy in order to sell this fight. The other thing that's kind of weird about this is, from what I understand before the contracts were signed, is that, I don't even know if they are signed as of yet, but during the negotiations, the Cotto camp asked for a 150-pound catch weight. Understand that they're fighting in the 154-pound division, and as far as I'm concerned, why don't they just make the fight at 147 pounds anyway? Because that's where the first fight was, and the 154-pound title can still be up for grabs if they come in at 147. And in my view, Margarito is better at 147 than he is above 147. So make the fight at 147. Anyway, basically the Margarito people told them no way in hell, and negotiations kept going back and forth, in which they also wanted, besides being a 150-pound catchweight, the Cotto people were going to demand that Margarito basically weigh in the day of the fight, and he cannot exceed 160 pounds. The Margarito people said no way. So now they've gotten it. I think the catch weight that they agreed upon was 153 pounds. Why, I don't know. And I'm not sure, and that after the post-fight thing is nothing, because the thing is that the Margarito people are willing to walk away from this. You know, they're not on this level where they think every fight out there should be a pay-per-view blockbuster and a monster 7-figure payday. You know, the Cotto people are. You know, they've been, you know, carried along by HBO, nice and careful. You know, even with, you know, there's two super fights that Cotto has lost. You know, they find a way to get him the maximum dollar when he fights. And some of you will say, well, he puts the butts in seats and this and that. Well, I'll point to Margarito putting the butts in the seats in the Staples Center too. But the situation is this: Cotto has sold out Madison Square Garden or not sold out, but drew in excess of 10,000 people at Madison Square Garden multiple times, which is a sizable boxing crowd for a live audience. So anyway, that's the news on that. That is scheduled and on the tap for December 3rd, and I believe the catch weight is going to be 153, which is gay as hell anyway, because they're fighting for a 154-pound title. My early thing is this, you know, I had predicted in the first fight that Cotto was going to win that fight, probably by a unanimous decision. I would say that this fight is going to basically be the race. It's going to be a race against the clock for Cotto is what it's going to be. Can he execute a Emanuel Stewart game plan to stay far enough away from Margarito, long enough, and then hold on, like he did against Mosley, to escape with a decision, because the storm is going to be coming after him. And understand this, people, whether or not his hand wraps were loaded, meaning Margarito in the first fight, it didn't have any effect whatsoever on how well his chin could take Cotto's shots, or how well his chin took Pacquiao's best shots. Cotto can't hurt Margarito, at least in essence. I thought that about Lucian Butte and Liberato Andrade, but Liberato Andrade got him in the rematch, and this could be the case too. But I seriously doubt it, because I don't think at 154 Cotto was not a big puncher. At 147 he really wasn't that devastating of a one-punch knockout artist like he was at 140. And Margarito is just a very big man in the 147-pound, 154-pound category. I saw a picture of them standing side by side, and Margarito almost dwarfs Cotto. So it's a race against the clock. I still think Cotto has enough to win a decision in this fight, and I also think, go back to the old adage that when one fighter wins a super fight by knockout and they have a rematch, usually the fighter who won by knockout the first time wins by knockout even quicker, or a stoppage I should say, because it wasn't a knockout. Usually wins by stoppage a little bit quicker the next time. Marcos Maidana is going to fight a gentleman named Petrov in Argentina, because they had the scrappist fight with Robert Guerrero, who's going in for shoulder surgery. August 27th in Buenos Aires. Actually, August 27th was the fight with Robert Guerrero. It was canceled. So basically on September 23rd in Buenos Aires, Marcos Maidana is going to be fighting against this man named Peter Petrov. I don't know how well this is going to go for Petrov, because he is 29-2-2 with only 13 KOs. What does that mean? He's got no power to keep Maidana off of him. They're fighting in Argentina. Expect Maidana to wear him down, break him down, and stop him somewhere in the middle rounds. All right, other little points of news. Nonito Donaire, they've pretty much got this solidified. He will be fighting in the theater, which used to be called the Felt Forum, for those of you who have been around a while. In New York, it's the basement of Madison Square Garden, the underground part, against Omar Narvaez, and they're saying that this is going to be his first and only title defense at 118 pounds, because after this fight he's giving up the titles and moving up to 122, with plans of moving up to 126 to have a wicked round robin with top ranks fighters in that division. And I believe that's in November. Let me double check the date on. I'm sorry, October 22nd in New York, and that is Omar Narvaez. The bad thing about this fight is that Donaire dwarfs Narvaez. Narvaez is very much like a fighter, I think I've told you this in a previous video, from the late 70s, early 80s from Argentina, who was a flyweight champion for a few years, named Santos. He's very compact, he's short, he's 5'3", Donaire's 5'7", and broad. He's a crowd-pleasing fighter. He's going to bring the fight to Donaire and crowd him, but I think that it's a technical mismatch is what it is, but it's the most interesting fight that they can make, that they can sell to HBO to actually get televised. All right, the schedule for this week. Couple of interesting points, little notes here. Let me go with the HBO dual card. In Atlantic City, New Jersey, Yuriorkis Gamboa is fighting Daniel Ponce DeLeon, and if you haven't noticed, I think Yuriorkis Gamboa has been stripped of his interim WBA belt for some unknown reason. And I don't know about the deals with the IBF belt, but they're fighting a 12-round fight. This is an interesting fight, and I'll tell you why. I expect Gamboa to win the fight, just on overall skill and ability, athletic ability to basically out-maneuver and out-hustle Ponce DeLeon. The problem is the chin, and the fact that Ponce DeLeon carries dynamite in his left hand. The situation is this: it's also a good weight for Ponce DeLeon, being smaller at 126 as opposed to 130. And at 126, it's where Gamboa's look more vulnerable. If Ponce DeLeon lands flush with that left hand, I've got no doubts that Gamboa is going to go down. It's whether or not he gets up or he's in any condition to defend himself when he does. But my gut, my heart, and my mind all tell me that the tsunami that is Gamboa is going to get to Ponce DeLeon quicker and just as easy as Juanma did. It's going to be interesting while it lasts, and I wouldn't be surprised if either guy wins by knockout. I'm more in line with Gamboa basically having the better pedigree and the better boxing ability and the better skill set and the speed to really do some damage. But again, Ponce DeLeon has the proverbial puncher's chance if there ever was one in this fight. Halfway around the world in Wrocław, Poland. I'm not as much excited about this fight as I am about to see this setting, this new stadium, this soccer stadium, and how they have this laid out for Vitaly Klitschko's WBC heavyweight title defense against Tomas Adamek. A lot of people are saying, this is a mismatch, this is a mismatch. Let me put it this way. Regardless of what the outcome is, even if it's a first round knockout in favor of Vitaly Klitschko, this fight is going to be more exciting than that turd that David Haye laid in July 2nd against Vladimir Klitschko. No matter, even if this fight's a first or a second round knockout, I'm sure we're going to get more sustained action and chances taken and risk taken in this fight than we did in 12 rounds of that garbage. I expect Klitschko to win this fight either by a sledgehammer-like decision like he did against Shannon Briggs, or a just break him down stoppage like he did against Cristobal Arreola, maybe even faster, maybe someone like a Sam Peter fight or something like that. The situation is this. You would ask, what chance does Adamek have? Adamek has what I call a fighter's spirit chance. What does that mean? That means he's going to come to fight. He's going to come to find a way. And the other thing, one advantage that Adamek has is that he is considerably faster for a man coming up in weight than Klitschko is probably normally used to seeing. Now, the height and reach are definitely a serious advantage for Vitaly Klitschko, but at the same time, Adamek's not afraid to get hit if he can land a punch. So for him to eat a jab or a right hand, if it doesn't knock him down, is nothing in order to land a good shot to the body or the head. And I believe that's where the fight's going to be won or lost, and it's going to be probably lost for Adamek, because I think it's probably going to take 3 or 4 of Adamek's punches to equal one of Vitaly Klitschko's, and for every time he takes one of Vitaly Klitschko's shots, it's almost like a -4 to Adamek. He's got to hit Klitschko about 8 times to get even. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but a good 4 or 6 times anyway, and he's got to make his shots count. He's got to get in and out, and he's got to move around. I personally hope that we get the absolute best of both of them, and I hope that Adamek is able to severely test Vitaly Klitschko, because what we can't have or stomach is another replay of basically Vladimir Klitschko and David Haye, and most of that was David Haye's fault. David Haye can talk as much as he wants, but he is in no way the fighter that Tomas Adamek is. And Tomas Adamek fighting before a raucous, enthusiastic crowd in his home country is going to be even more motivated to do well in this fight. How well, I don't know. I'm going with Klitschko, but we don't know how these are going to be made, and that's why the fights are fought. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was missing. There's some other fight on here. We covered Gamboa and DeLeon. There's something overseas. Oh, I know. It was Belfast, Northern Ireland. Paul McCloskey healed up nicely from his headbutt cut, or the cut that he suffered from Amir Khan, taking on the aforementioned Bradis, otherwise known as Brady Prescott. 12 rounds, WBA Junior Welterweight title eliminator. Alright, let's be clear. If McCloskey wins this fight, he's not getting a rematch with Amir Khan. If Prescott wins this fight, and he wins it impressively, I have to begin to wonder if the powers to be will be able to leverage Amir Khan into giving Brady Prescott a rematch, before he moves up to welterweight. I think that's a 50-50 proposition. I think if Prescott looks impressive against McCloskey and stops him, knocks him down, does something Khan couldn't do, and stops him where the referee's got to save him or knocks him out, I think the pressure for Khan to fight Prescott is going to be incredible. And if he moves up to welterweight without doing it, I think he will never live it down. This is one wrong that has to be made right for Amir Khan. I know a lot of you have said, look, that was at lightweight, it doesn't matter, Khan's a way more polished fighter since then. What it doesn't change is the fact that Prescott is taller and longer, and he can get to Khan. A lot of you brought up, had this guy outbox Prescott, had this guy do this to Prescott, he looked like a bum in these other fights he's lost. Listen, you have to be properly motivated. He was very motivated when he went over to England. He was a monster underdog against Khan and knocked him out in 54 seconds. Now, has Khan gotten a lot better? He's fired his coaching and training staff and trained with Freddie Roach. Yes, he's like light years better. But it doesn't undo the fact that there are holes in everybody's game. And Prescott found them. It's not like those holes are all of a sudden covered up. They're always there. It's like Paul Williams being susceptible to straight left-handed for southpaw. There's nothing that's going to get rid of that, ever. It's there. It's in his makeup. It's in his DNA. He's always going to be susceptible to that. And I'm sorry to say that a taller fighter who puts forth a telephone pole-like jab like Prescott does is going to basically punch a hole through that guard. I mean, but it's not to say that Khan won't be on steadier legs in the 140-pound division. It's not to say that Khan won't actually go upside Prescott's head first this time. It's not to say that Khan will, might be able to take Prescott's shots, fight at a distance, use side-to-side movement, and basically outclass him. Those are all real possibilities. But what I'm saying is, the last image in everybody's mind when you put those two names together is Khan being absolutely annihilated in 54 seconds. So the only way to erase that is the way Lennox Lewis did it, which was fight Oliver McCall again and make him cry in the middle of the ring and quit, or the referee stop the fight. Fight Hasim Rahman again and wait for him to put his arms out like this and basically whack him with a right hand and knock him out. That's the way it's done. I mean, that's the only way it's going to be done. That's going to do it for this edition of Boxing Info. Let me know what you think of these other videos I put up. I know not many people have been commenting. I more or less put them up, and there's more that I'm going to put up for other people that aren't involved in boxing to watch them, basically, because it's kind of hard unless to just basically sit around the house and watch DVDs. So I just basically bring them to work and upload them onto YouTube, and basically send emails to people and say, did you catch this or whatnot with the tennis ones, the golf one, all these other ones, and when I get more of my fights basically burned onto DVD, hopefully the ones that don't have people going apeshit crazy over copyright crap, I can upload those too. That's going to do it for this show. We welcome any questions or comments. I will see you soon.